In 2019, Nanterre, a small suburb just outside of Paris, hosted one of the most important events in fashion history. The cold, grey weather reflected the mood. Hundreds of people gathered together, dressed in black, crying, mourning, and celebrating the life of one of the most influential people of our time. His complex life and questionable quotes often left us confused. But what was it about Karl Lagerfeld, a man married to his job with very little family, that made so many people adore him? Karl Otto Lagerfeld was born in 1933 in Hamburg, into a wealthy family with two older sisters. Growing up, he had a comfortable childhood, living in a small town. Due to his unique personality, he struggled to fit in. At the age of 14, frustrated by the lack of opportunity in his hometown, he packed his bags, moved to Paris, and enrolled at the Lycée Montaigne, where he would learn a valuable skill that would last him his whole life and make him uniquely strong at his craft. Later in his career, Karl told us, "The difference between me and every other designer today is that I sketch everything myself. Every model you see in the shows is an original sketch by me." A person close to Karl once revealed, he sketches faster than he talks. In 1954, when Karl was still just 21, he won an award in the International Wool Secretariat competition for sketching a coat. This caught the eye of a particular judge on the board, who offered him the position of his design assistant at one of the most infamous fashion houses in France, Pierre Balmain. After 4 years of intense learning, he then went on to work as a designer for Jean Patou. He designed elegant, understated, and chic haute couture collections, which were often not well received by the press. And one year, he designed skirts so short that they were labeled as the shortest in Paris. In 1962, at the age of 29, Karl still didn't feel ready to launch his own house, so he did something quite bizarre for the time, and he started to create ready-to-wear as a freelancer. His friend Fernando Sanchez said he knew he wanted to do his own thing. He worked for major clients such as Krizia, Valentino, Charles Jourdan, Tiziana, and Elizabeth Taylor. 2 years after working as a freelancer, he was approached by Gabby Aguillon, who invited him to join Chloé. Here, she encouraged him to take a freer approach to design, and 3 years in, he became the creative director of the house, a role he would then hold for 16 years. At Chloé, he created a 200-piece Spring-Summer 74 collection, which put him on the international map. He experimented with extravagant spectacle runways, a feature that would become prominent in his career. His iconic work at Chloé features bold graphics, prints, and whimsical designs like the violin and shower dresses. Along with many other bohemian, goddess, and floral-esque looks, Karl helped make Chloé what it is today. During the 60s, Fendi had fallen on hard times and needed a revitalization. And Karl, he wanted to work at multiple fashion houses, so in 1965, he became the creative director of Fendi, where he'd eventually stay until the end of his life. His 6-decade tenure is unparalleled by any other designer, and to put this into context, Lagerfeld began designing for Fendi before man even walked on the moon. At Fendi, he worked closely with the Fendi sisters. They started by focusing on fur to change the brand's status, from boring bourgeois to creative playground. Together, they perfected groundbreaking techniques to change the way fabric was used. The talent and craftsmanship of the Fendi artisans enabled Lagerfeld to be rebellious in his designs, placing the house at the forefront of the industry. This rebirth of Fendi led to the creation of the iconic double F logo. The F supposedly stand for fun fur, although there is linked to the fact that the brand was founded by Mr. and Mrs. Fendi, so the two Fs could be extracted from their surname. Just like at Chloé, Karl put on some remarkable shows for Fendi. However, the difference? Location. From the Great Wall of China to installing a glass floor over the Trevi Fountain in Rome, Karl let his creativity guide the way. With Fendi at Milan Fashion Week in 1993, Karl created a show which had no models. He believed the clothes were simple enough to hold their own. Black and white suits, dresses, and knitwear were all displayed on mannequins. However, he didn't feel the same way about the swimwear, so Lagerfeld had enlisted Moana Pozzi, an Italian porn star, and her stripper friends to model the collection. Anna Wintour, who was in attendance, did not like this, so she walked out, causing major headlines at the time. It is worth noting though that Karl never even made it to the show himself to see the editor's reaction. In 1982, one of the hardest decisions Karl had to yet make was upon him. The chairman of Chanel asked Lagerfeld to join the house as a creative director, offering him $1 million salary. With Karl's contract at Chloé finishing at the end of the year, he thought it would be the perfect time to move on to a new chapter in his life, so he accepted the role. But just a reminder, he's still working as the creative director of Fendi at the time as well. When When Karl joined Chanel, the brand was thought to be dead. It was his task to revitalize the historic legacy that Chanel herself had left. He got off to a rocky start, thanks to rumors that he wasn't equipped enough for the job. The house's slow and sluggish production resisted against Lagerfeld's modernization, and it showed. Their first collection received mixed reviews. However, after finding middle ground, Lagerfeld used his energy, passion, and incredible mind to bring the brand back to life. The redesigning of its image, its ready-to-wear, and making it current again. He ended up staying at the brand for almost 4 decades, becoming almost as synonymous with Chanel as Coco herself. Just like the iconic double F logo he created for Fendi, Karl was the genius behind the CC monograph of Chanel, one of the most recognizable logos in the world. Ella put a poll on this in the Luxe Circle the other day, which, by the way, is where we have all our daily conversations with you guys in our community about all things luxury fashion. Anyway, we asked if you preferred Coco Chanel's or Karl Lagerfeld's direction of Chanel more, and the results shocked us, to be honest. It was pretty 50-50, but the majority did pick Chanel, whereas we both said Lagerfeld because he was the one who made cult items such as boucle tweed jackets and the legendary classic flat bag. If you want to join in on the conversation next time, just subscribe to see our posts. At Chanel, Lagerfeld had more funding and support to exercise his creativity and let his imagination run wild. He had big-name supermodels like Linda Evangelista and Jerry Hall walking his elaborately designed runway sets from day one. Although he consistently chose the Grand Palais as his show venue, it never looked the same twice. He transformed the space into everything from a ski resort, a palatial beachside villa, a supermarket, a cruise ship, and even the rooftops of Paris. With such extravagant displays, Karl demonstrated his deep understanding of the power of image and hype, and that as social media exploded, wildly disseminated images had the power to transform a show. At this time, women were breaking glass ceilings and refusing to play by the old rules, and Mr. Lagerfeld had transformed Chanel into the armor they could wear to do it. Lagerfeld was also known for his ruthless detachment from his own work, supposedly detesting the past. He once said in a 1984 interview with Vogue, "A designer has to see himself like a building with TV antennas. You capture images of everything that's going on, tape it, and then forget it." Having this mindset towards his work allowed him to constantly be inspired by new things, and it helped him continuously create fresh ideas. His mantra became, embrace the present and invent the future. At Chanel, Lagerfeld was known for his tweed designs, while at Fendi, he became famous for his fur and suits. In 1984, he launched his own eponymous label, characterized by lots of black, tightly fitted silhouettes. This line was a success, and 4 years later, it led to the launch of a more affordable diffusion line, launched with Styleman, called KL by Karl Lagerfeld. His eponymous label shares the design aesthetic of himself, described as Parisian chic with rock chic attitude and tailored silhouettes. It's an accessible, ready-to-wear line that also creates accessories. But fashion wasn't Karl's only passion in life. He had many. Often overlooked was his love for photography and books. In 1987, he shot his first campaign, which kickstarted his love for capturing images. Over the years, he shot campaigns for Fendi and Chanel, as well as editorial shoots for series of high-end glossy magazines. Lagerfeld went on to release numerous coffee tables and art books. He even opened a photo studio in Paris in 1999, conjoined into a bookshop. It was called 7L, simply after the address, which is still open to this day. We'll leave the location in the description below so that you can add this to your itinerary next time that you're in Paris. A year later, he launched Edition 7L Publishing House, which specializes in books about visual knowledge and photography. His own personal collection of such material consisted of 300,000 volumes. Karl said that photography is part of my life. It completes the circle between my artistic and professional restlessness. A couple of years later, in 1992, Karl actually returned to the creative director's role at Chloé. Unfortunately though, this time it wasn't as successful, perhaps due to the 3 other roles that he was working at the time. But after 5 years, he was replaced by 25-year-old Stella McCartney, who went on to rejuvenate the brand. By this point, we noticed a turning point in Karl's personal life. Thanks to spending the 90s insecure and uncomfortable, he made a vow to change. In 1 year, he lost 92 pounds, mainly so he could fit into Hedi Slimani's slim clothing for Dior Homme. He basically followed a super strict diet he created in his book, The Karl Lagerfeld Diet. The 3-phase regime included phase 1, 3 months of eating solely protein powder and vegetables. Phase 2, 5 months of eating protein powder for breakfast and dinner with a lunch of veg and fish. And lastly, phase 3, 4 months of following the same diet as phase 2 with the additions of wholemeal bread and low glucose fruit. He did also take dietary supplements throughout to compensate for the lack of vitamins. Looking back to the time he did this, culturally, it makes sense. The 90s and noughties were a time of the slim supermodel and unhealthy weight loss. In hindsight, it's a ridiculous diet. It has to be some sort of punishment, Karl explained himself in the preface of the book. Not only was there food restrictions, but exercise was also discouraged as it promoted hunger, and drinking Diet Coke was encouraged as it suppressed the appetite. He went on to produce a collaboration with Coca-Cola in 2011. If the diet doesn't sound already crazy enough, the book went on to become an international bestseller. Some part of me thinks Karl would have got cancelled for this if it was released today. After his transformation in 2001, he became the monochromatic Kaiser Karl we all know and love. He had a nonchalant attitude which blended well with his unconventional approach to his work. Never seen without a stiff white tailored shirt, sleek leather gloves, dark sunglasses, and his iconic ponytail, Karl was a caricature. This persona became an icon of the fashion world that was just as recognizable as the Chanel logo itself, and it existed well beyond the labels he represented. When it came to his opinions, Lagerfeld was outspoken. He had no filter and voiced his thoughts no matter who he offended. This brutal honesty became a feature that people loved about him, no matter how much offense he caused. He'd say things like, sweatpants are a sign of defeat. He found ugly people depressing. He said Adele is a little too fat, but she has a beautiful face and a divine voice. And that Heidi Klum was no runway model. She's simply too heavy and has too big of a bust. His bluntness made him harsh, but he clearly got away with it. In 2004, Karl was asked by H+M to collaborate on a capsule collection. This was the first time ever that a fast fashion giant partnered with a high fashion runway designer, and it sold out immediately. It spawned a new world of high-end high street collaborations. We still see them today, like H&M Mugler, Balmain, Stella McCartney, Versace, and many more. Let me know in the comment section what you think about high-end designers collaborating with high street fashion retailers. In 2008, Lagerfeld's name was added to L'Épître Larousse Illustre, the French version of the Oxford English Dictionary. And in 2009, he designed the cover. He illustrated the original Larousse motif of a woman blowing the seeds of knowledge, otherwise known as Les Amuse, with the phrase Habil par Karl Lagerfeld, translated into dressed by Karl Lagerfeld. That same year, in 2008, he spent months creating a one-of-a-kind scrapbook for the editor of Tea magazine, Stefano Tonci. These 19 pages, showing his profile in style, displayed never-before-seen images of his homes and life over the years. It gave us an insight into his passion for history, architecture, and interior. Another love in Lagerfeld's life was his most prized possession, a cat named Choupette, a famous white Berman with over 100,000 Instagram followers, 3 handmaids, and who only travels by private jets. Stay to the end of the video for the update on what she's getting up to today. Lagerfeld didn't have any children, but he spoke fondly of his friends' children and considered them as his own grandkids. He didn't really have many relatives, so instead, he made fashion his family. His work never stopped, and in 2015, he presented his first Haute Furore show for Fendi, making him the only designer to have shown 2 shows during the same Haute Couture week. The same year, he also added a children's line to his namesake brand and began publishing the Karl Daily, a satirical newspaper featuring his sketches and photography. Throughout the years, Lagerfeld has won, created, and distributed countless awards. In 2010, the Couture Council Fashion Visionary Award by New York's Fashion Institute of Technology, a special honor created just for Lagerfeld and his achievements over the years. In 2015, Lagerfeld took home the Outstanding Achievement Award at the British Fashion Awards. When presented it by Anna Wintour, she exclaimed, "More than anyone I know, he represents the soul of fashion, restless, forward-looking, and ferociously attentive to our ever-changing culture." In 2017, Parisian Mayor Anne Hidalgo presented him with the Grand Vermeil Medal, following Chanel's 2017 Couture show. And in 2019, LVMH announced the renaming of its prize for young fashion designers to the Karl Lagerfeld Prize. This is awarded to young designers to support the talent of tomorrow and includes €150,000 and a 1-year mentorship program. Then, on 19th of February 2019, just days before the autumn-winter Fendi collection was due to be shown, Karl Lagerfeld passed away in Paris, aged 85, due to complications of pancreatic cancer. This man was one of a kind, leading the industry with his truly unique vision and his creative mind. His impact will never be forgotten. His lifetime of dedication to his work at Chanel, Fendi, and his own label is commendable. Throughout his career, Lagerfeld was well loved. Celebrities were honored to be able to work with him. And after his passing, his friends all paid tribute to his life. Big names such as Naomi Campbell, Cara Delevingne, Gigi Hadid, Lewis Hamilton, Alessandro Michele, Takashi Murakami, Kate Moss, Kris Jenner, Kim Kardashian, and so many more helped to ensure his legacy was truly celebrated. At Chanel, he was succeeded by longtime collaborator Virginie Viard, and at Fendi by Silvia Venturini Fendi, formerly the creative director of menswear and accessories. And the eponymous Karl Lagerfeld brand continues under the design director directorship of Lagerfeld appointed Hun Kim, who has taken inspiration from an archive of more than 60,000 of the late designer's photos and sketches. 2023 is a year paying huge tributes to the late designer, as we've just seen the cover of the May 2023 issue of Vogue. 10 models that Lagerfeld loved most, each dressed in custom looks commissioned by Vogue. The selected designers were asked to reinterpret Lagerfeld's work to create the vision. The image was then set in the Grand Palais, as mentioned before, Lagerfeld's favourite location to put on a show. Although it was noted that some of Karl's muses at Chanel, Claudia Schiffer and Cara Delevingne, were missing from the shot. And you may wonder what has happened to his cat, Choupette. She is now being cared for by Karl Lagerfeld's former housekeeper and was also a rumoured feature in the Vogue cover shoot for the May issue. This is all leading up to the 2023 Met Gala, where the dress code is simply in honour of Karl, whilst they unveil the newest exhibition at the Costume Institute, Karl Lagerfeld, a line of beauty. A display set to feature 150 pieces from Karl's career at Chloé, Fendi, Chanel and his own label. Karl Lagerfeld lived a truly extraordinary life. He completely transformed the fashion industry, inspired millions of people from all walks of life and left a legacy that will no doubt withstand the test of time. His hard work is truly unfathomable, yet he wouldn't want us to say that. Once interviewed, he said, "Please don't say I work hard. People buy dresses to be happy, not to hear about somebody who suffered over a piece of taffeta." Nonetheless, his almost 7 decades of dedication to his craft is remarkable. Thank you for listening to the story of a truly iconic legend of the industry. Let me know in the comment section who you want to hear about next.